Hello everyone, welcome back to Atreyu Crochet. So in today's video I'm going to be teaching you the cluster stitch. Now you can make clusters of all sizes. You can make a small cluster, you can make a medium-sized cluster, or you can make a large cluster. Today we're going to be making some large clusters, so let's get to it. So as per usual, we're going to start out with a slip knot. Put our crochet hook in, close the loop, and we are going to chain out an even number. Okay, so once you get to the width of whatever you're going to use this stitch for, maybe you're going to make a scarf or an afghan, you want that many chains. You want to measure out that many chains or crochet out that many chains to get the width. Once you've gotten your desired width, then you're going to add 2 more chains, which will serve as the foundation chains. Okay, I will talk a little bit later about what that means when I say foundation chains. Okay, so chain out an even number and then add 2 more chains to that number, and the number will still be even. For today's tutorial, I am going to chain 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. My yarn is trying to split on me because I'm making this tutorial for you guys. I think that was 7. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep. 8, 9, 10. All right, and now I'm going to add the 2 more chains, which will serve as the foundation chain. So 1 and then 2. All right, so we're going to put our first stitch into the 4th chain from the crochet hook. So here's the crochet hook, obviously. This is the first chain from the hook, the 2nd chain from the hook, the 3rd chain from the hook, and here's the 4th chain right here from the hook. So that's where we're going to put our first stitch. So we're going to be doing large clusters using the double crochet stitch. So what do you know about double crochets? Well, you know that before you enter the stitch you have to yarn over once, right? So let's do that. Yarn over. Now let's go to this 4th stitch from the hook, which is there. Okay, we're into the chain stitch now, and I like to get 2 loops on when I go into the chain that way. Now I know that I yarn over and pull through to the front, and that leaves me with 3 loops left on my crochet hook. Now for the double crochet, I yarn over and I go through 2, and then normally I would yarn over again and go through the last 2 to complete the double crochet. But you guys, this is a cluster, and we're going to make a large cluster. So we're going to leave this partial double crochet right where it is, and we're going to start up another double crochet. By the way, we're going to be working into that same chain. Okay, so you're going to yarn over, then you're going to re-enter that same chain, yarn over, pull through to the front, and now you have 4 loops. Yarn over, go through the first 2 like you normally would with a double crochet, and now you have 3 loops. Right now we could finish this off and this would be probably like a small cluster, but we're going to keep going because remember I said we're going to make a large cluster. This is a large clusters tutorial. Okay, so let's keep going. Yarn over, go into the same chain again, yarn over, pull through to the front, yarn over, go through the first 2, 1, 2, okay, and let's do it again. So right now it's probably like a medium. Yarn over, go back into the same chain, yarn over, pull through to the front, yarn over, go through 2, okay. So right now we've created 1, 2, 3, 4 partial double crochets, and when I say partial I just mean that we didn't complete the double crochets. Okay, so this could also serve as a medium cluster, maybe for some people, and also depending on the size yarn and size hook, maybe it would be a large cluster at this point. But we're going to go big or go home. So yarn over, go back into that same chain. We're wearing this chain out, poor chain. Yarn over, pull through to the front, and now we're going to yarn over again and go through the first 2 loops again. So 1, 2. Alright, so now we have a lot of loops on this crochet hook. At this point, we're going to yarn over, and we're going to go through the first 5 loops. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those are the first 5 loops. This is that 6th one that we're not going to go through, and this right here, that's the yarn over that we just did. So yarn over, and now we're going to go through these first 5. So turn your crochet hook, make sure you get it going in the right direction, and just go through all 5 of those loops like that. Okay, and this is what you have. Then you're going to yarn over and go through the 2 remaining loops like that. Alrighty, and now we're going to chain 1. Ah, so beautiful. And that's our first large cluster. We chained 1, and we're going to skip a chain down here now. Okay, if you ever get confused as to what's the next chain, well, all these stitches are in there, so this right here, that's the next chain. So we're skipping that one. That chain 1 will be kind of over that next chain, so we skip that one. And in this stitch right here, sorry, got a little blur there. So this cluster is in that chain, which is now stretched out wide. This is the next chain. We're going to skip that one. And in this chain, that's where we're going to start our next cluster. So remember, start with the double crochet. Yarn over, enter the chain however you will. I like to get 2 loops on when I enter the chain that way. So 1, 2, okay. Yarn over, pull through to the front. Yarn over, go through 2. 1, 2. Alrighty. That's the first partial. We have to do this 4 more times for a total of 5 partial double crochets. So yarn over, re-enter the chain. Yarn over, go through 2. That's 2. Yarn over, re-enter the chain. Yarn over, pull through to the front. Yarn over, go through the first 2. That's 3 partial double crochets. 1, 2, 3. Yarn over, re-enter the chain. Yarn over, pull through to the front. Yarn over, go through the first 2 loops. 1, 2. That's 4 partial double crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yarn over, re-enter the chain for the last time. Yarn over, pull through to the front. Yarn over, go through the first 2. And now here are 6 loops. We're going to yarn over and go through these first 5 right here. Don't forget to turn your crochet hook and just go all the way through those first 5. Now yarn over and go through the remaining 2. Don't forget to chain 1. Okay, so we chained 1. Now we're gonna, as before, skip a chain and start the next cluster into that stitch thereafter. Okay, continue on this way until the end, and I will meet you there. Alright, you guys, so this is what we have so far. I have made 4 large clusters, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I've chained in between them. And if you have been entering the correct chains, if you've been putting your clusters into the correct chains, remembering to skip a chain, then at the end of your row you should be left with 2 chains. So we're going to skip this chain right there, and we're going to put our final cluster into that last chain right there. Okay. A tip for these chains that are occurring in between the clusters, make them loose. Okay, so just make a nice loose chain like that. If you don't, it's gonna kind of bunch and be a little tight, and you don't want it to buckle. Okay, it's a beautiful stitch though, isn't it? All right, let's make this last cluster. So yarn over, we're skipping that chain, remember, skipping that one, entering into the last chain of the row. Yarn over, go through 2. That's 1, that's 2, that's 3, that's 4 partial double crochets. One more time, get in there. Pull through the front, yarn over, go through 2, And that is 5 partial double crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yarn over, go through the first 5 loops, leaving 2 loops on. Yarn over, go through 2. All right. So chaining out 10 chains and then plus the 2 extra chains for the foundation, this is what you're going to get. You're going to get 5 large clusters. And speaking of the foundation chains, basically what that is it's just the chain at the beginning of the row. So you know how we skipped 3 chains and started this first cluster in the 4th chain from the hook? Those 2 chains there, those are serving as the foundation chains. Okay. So if you read a pattern that says a multiple of whatever plus how many ever for the foundation chain, then that's what it's referring to. Now, sometimes in some patterns you'll have just a chain 1, like it'll say multiple of 3 plus 2 plus 1 for the foundation chain. The reason it's only 1 chain for that foundation chain is because you're making a smaller stitch. So how many ever chains are being used for the foundation chain will depend on what type of stitch you're going to be crocheting. For this one, we're working with double crochet, so that's why we went into the 4th chain, leaving technically those 3 chains available. Sorry, that's probably way too much information. You guys are beginners, I know, I'm sorry. All right, moving on. So at this point we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. You're going to turn your work. Okay. And now we're going to not mess with this final cluster of the previous row. In fact, from here on out, we're going to just work in these chain 1 spaces. So there's a chain 1 space, there's 1, and there's 1. So in between the clusters. And then down here where that foundation chain 2 is, we're going to work in there as well. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. So let's just continue making clusters the way we know how. But instead of going into the chains, we're going to go into the chain 1 space. So we're going to yarn over, go into the chain 1 space. Don't mind that tail, I just connected to white, and I haven't clipped that yet. Don't let it distract you. Alright, and then yarn over, go through 2. That's 1. Yarn over, go back in. Go through 2, that's 2. 3, 4, and going through the first 2 loops, that's 5. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 partial double crochets. Now I'm going to yarn over, go through the first 5 loops, leaving 2, yarn over, go through 2, chain loosely 1. All right, now I'm looking for the next chain 1 space. Well, this is a cluster. Oh, so that's the next chain 1 space, and that's where I'm going to go in to create that next large cluster. So 1, going through the first 2 loops, that's 2. Going through the first 2 loops, that's 3. That's 4. And that's 5. I think I went too far there. Yeah, that's 5. Okay. Now I'm going to yarn over and go through the first 5 loops. Yarn over again and go through the remaining 2 loops. Loosely chain 1. Moving on to the next chain 1 space, which is there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Leaving 5 loops on. Technically 6. So leaving 6 loops on, but we're going to yarn over and go through these first 5 here. Now we're going to yarn over and go through the remaining 2. Loosely chain 1. Next chain 1 space is there. 1. I'm speeding up now. 2, because you guys should have the hang of this by now. 3. 4. And when I say speeding up, I just mean going faster. 5. Okay, yarn over, go through the first 5 loops. So pretty much go through everything except for that last loop. Now yarn over, go through 2. Alright, so at this point, we only have 4 large clusters, and look, in row 1 we had 5, so that should tell you that you still have 1 more cluster to make somewhere. Over here at the edge on the end, don't forget the foundation chain there. Okay, so that chain 3, chain 2 situation, we're going to put a cluster in there, in between there and the cluster there, the first cluster of row 1. So loosely chain 1, and then go in here and put a cluster. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, we have 6 loops on our crochet hook. Yarn over and go through the first 5, leaving 2. Yarn over, go through the remaining 2. Okay, so this is what we have, and I know it looks a little weird, like, you know, it's kind of just not really straight. But as you continue to add rows, it's kind of staggered is what I'm trying to say. But as you continue to add rows, it gets better. So let's do one more row. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Turn your work. Now this is the first chain 1 space, so that's where we're going to put our first large cluster. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Yarn over, go through first 5. Yarn over, go through 2. Loosely chain 1. Next, look for the next chain 1 space, which is there in between the clusters. It's always in between the clusters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yarn over, go through the first 5 loops. Yarn over, go through the remaining 2. Loosely chain 1. Go to the next chain 1 space. 1, 2, missed a loop. There we go. 3, 4, 5. Yarn over, go through the first 5. Yarn over, go through the remaining 2. Loosely chain 1. We have 3 clusters made now. Moving on. 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you need to do it like this, 1, 2, to go, make sure you don't go through any more than the first 2, then go that slowly. I'm just going fast because you guys have seen me do it a million times now. Okay, so that's 5 now. And then yarn over, go through the first 5 loops, leaving 2. Yarn over, go through the remaining 2. Okay, so once again, it looks like we're at the end of this row, right? But we're not. And something that should tell us that we're not is that, hey, in the previous rows we had 5 large clusters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, so we're not done yet. But remember that this chain 3 is on the end there, okay? And that's where we're going to put our final cluster for the row. So loosely chain 1, okay? And then put our final cluster in that space, that chain 3 space. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, going through only the first 2 loops. Okay, so now I'm going to yarn over, go through the first 5 loops, leaving 2, yarn over, go through the remaining 2. And see how, because it's staggered, as you continue to add rows, it kind of balances out. Okay, so this is what you guys have. Now you guys know that I like to show you how to change colors. Just in case you haven't seen any of my other videos, I like to try to do it in the same video when I can. So I'm going to switch to the yellow at this point. So I'm just going to grab my yellow yarn. Alright, so now I'm going to just hook the yellow on to the crochet hook, holding it back there like that, and then just loop it on, and then I'm holding the tail back here, okay, and then I'm going to pull on the white so that that loop disappears, gets small, and now I'm going to pull on the tail a little bit, and then I'll pull on the white again to make the loop disappear, and now I'm going to tie a little knot between the tail of the yellow and the white yarn. And when I say one knot or a knot, I mean at least two. Alrighty, now we're going to start working with the yellow. So remember, the way we start every row from here on out is by chaining 3. 1, 2, 3. Turn our work, and remember, we work in the chain 1 spaces now for large clusters. So yarn over and go in there. 1, 2, 3, and 4. One more. And 5. Going through the first 2 loops. Alright, that leaves 6 loops on our hook. Yarn over, go through the first 5. Okay. Yarn over, go through the remaining 2 loosely, chain 1, and go to the next chain 1 space. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Go through the first 2 loops. Yarn over, go through the first 5. Yarn over, go through the remaining 2. Okay, so I'm going to do a couple of rows of the yellow, and then I'm going to meet you once I finish. Okay, so just continue working, and I'll see you shortly. Alrighty, you guys, so as you can see, I did some more rows of the maze. Okay, and I did hide the tails just to give it a more finished look, but yeah, this is the pattern. It staggers. Okay, so over here it's protruding, but then in the next row it's protruding on the other edge. Okay, so as a whole it doesn't look off. It just looks like a cool design. Alright, so this is the cluster stitch, you guys, and these are large clusters. Remember, for a smaller cluster, just use fewer double crochets, and say you use 3 double crochets instead of 5. Then when you yarn over, instead of going through the first 5 loops because you had 5 partial double crochets, you would yarn over and then go through the first 3 loops because you did 3 partial double crochets, and then that would leave you with 2 loops on your hook. So yarn over and then go through the remaining 2. Okay, so basically what I'm saying is the number of partial double crochets that you make when you yarn over after you've gotten them all made, and you yarn over, if you're wondering about how many loops to go through at that point, it's the same number of loops as the number of stitches that you made for the cluster. Okay, I know, once again, I feel like I'm not doing a good job of explaining this, but it's very simple. Okay, well, I hope you have enjoyed this tutorial. Let me know on Instagram or in the comments on YouTube whether or not you decide to try this, and if you make anything with it. I was thinking so many different things you can make with this. You could not make it as wide, so not chain out 10 and then plus 2 more to make a total of 12 chains. Starting out with, you can make it maybe like 6 chains and then plus 2, and make it narrower, and then just go up and then crochet to a certain length and connect it, and it could serve as a choker. Or you can do even fewer, maybe like, I don't know, chain 4 plus 2 for the foundation chain, so a total of 6 chains, and then make it even narrower, and it can serve as a bracelet if you make it as long as you need it, and then connect it, you know. Even this, you can connect it this way and it would kind of serve as a nice little wrist or armband. I mean, you could make a scarf, a blanket, afghan, pot holder. There's so many things that you can make with this. So add this to your collection. I'm definitely going to add this video to my crochet stitches for beginners playlist. So yeah, check out the other videos there. Well, that is it for this video. I'll see you in the next one. In the meantime, happy crocheting.